Good morning. It's Lisa with Lisa Heal Yourself. And today, as it's almost Christmas and it will be New Year's and we're heading into 2022, I want to talk a little bit about collective healing and collective shadow work for the world because we're going to need it this year in 2022. So 2020, as everyone knows, set off a chain of events. It graduated into 2021 where we see division, hatred, arguing, where we see sides being formed and blame and shame being, put out. We see division, we see anger, we see frustration. So 2020 kind of brought us together in a way, right? Everyone felt like they were in it together. This collective we're in it together really brought humanity. Even though we were alone, even though we were scared, even though we didn't know what to expect, we had a general feeling of camaraderie and like a feeling of humanity is going to be okay. You could feel that we're all in it togetherness. 2021, as things went on and as mandates and different things came into play, came into being, you can see the fracturing, the division. You can see a lot of fighting and truth surfacing, and you can see the difficulty that the world is having with this, okay? Because it's affecting families, it's affecting employers and employees, it's coming between closest friends, it's coming between your comrades on social media, it's sort of dividing us. Because often things get worse before they get better, unfortunately. Usually there's the falling apart of the old before the new can emerge. So let's just talk about shadow work. So when you're doing shadow work for yourself, and I hope most of you, I've talked a lot about it over the last couple years, we're doing the necessary inner work, the shadow work. What is that? That means all the aspects of yourself that you denied, suppressed, rejected, turned away from, didn't want to look at, buried, just denied in any way. You push that into the unconscious because it's too tough to deal with. A lot of these are our deepest hurts, our deepest shames, our deepest feelings and emotions. Those of us with chronic illness who have been on a healing journey, on a healing path, if you struggle with physical or mental or emotional illness, you've no doubt realized that you need to look into your shadow, that we need to bring up the parts of us that we've suppressed, rejected, disowned, denied, abandoned, and bring them into the light. So let's just quickly go over what shadow work is. When something's been suppressed or it's in the dark or we've put it away, right? We've suppressed it, repressed it, denied it, disowned it. In order to do shadow work, we say that that's now in the shadow because it's in the dark. It's better left unlooked at, untalked about. We a lot of times we don't even look at it. It's too painful. So it's just an aspect of us that gets pushed down so far that we don't deal with. So shadow work is looking at all those things that have now gone into the shadow over a lifetime of hurts. And we must ultimately do this if we want to heal, if we want to do the inner work to heal. So how do you do that? How do you bring up everything, right? It seems difficult. But it's just these fractured parts of yourselves, these parts that have been denied a voice, been denied, they've been denied the presence of light. So what we do is we shine a light on them. It's like if we're in a dark, pitch dark room, we take a flashlight and we shine the light on something that we didn't know was there, or we didn't want to acknowledge was there, and we hold the light on it. We see it for the first time. We see it in a different way for the first time. We allow it to come to the surface. So shadow work is simply taking something from the shadows, from the dark, and bringing it to the light. Okay, we shine the light on it. And that's how it gets seen, heard, acknowledged, accepted. This is how we just allow it to integrate and to transform it. Because we can't transform what we don't acknowledge, what we don't foresee or accept. Okay, so, If you have a lot of grief in your past and you don't want to look at some of those memories, we deny, suppress, reject them. We put them into the shadow parts of ourselves. Eventually, when we shine a light on them, when we turn the light on them, they come up, but they bubble up with pain because they were stored with pain. So we don't have to do anything but bring them back up to where they should have been. Because when they were originally there, that grief or that anger, that shame, whatever it was, we had so much going on. We weren't strong enough mentally, emotionally, physically. Maybe we were little and we were dependent on other people. For whatever reason, our survival part of us thought that we weren't strong or capable enough to deal with that. So it sometimes automatically will put that, suppress that into the subconscious, okay, for you. Because either you're not old enough, you're not competent enough, you're not confident enough, you haven't done enough work. It would really hurt too much to look at it, to deal with it. I mean, this is like even things like go as far as abuse, rapes, physical abuse, like all like really hard things. Okay. It could be something milder, but it could be something really heavy. You might not have the capacity to look at that point in your life because you're already to your max capacity, or you're too young and you don't have the skills yet. So your body ends up suppressing that for you. It goes into the shadow. Eventually we shine a light on it. And when it comes up with pain because that's how it was stored. And it's all there for us to see fully, to feel that anger, to feel that grief, to feel that shame, to feel that guilt, to feel that jealousy, to feel that rage, to feel whatever it is that we didn't feel safe or strong enough to feel, right? And why parts of us didn't want to feel this because it was too overwhelming. And also because we didn't want to be abandoned. We didn't want to be rejected, judged, criticized. So when we finally shine light on it, that is all still there. All of those feelings are still there. Like, maybe if I deal with this now, or if I expose this now, if I let this come into the light, I'll be rejected, I'll be denied, I'll be abandoned again. And I can't go through that again. Emotionally, we don't feel safe enough to go through that. We don't want to let people see that. We don't even want to see it. So again, we hold these down in our adult life. But ultimately, they have a way of bubbling to the surface, and the light either gets turned on without your permission, or we're brave enough to turn it on ourselves. But ultimately, usually something that's placed in the dark can't stay there forever. Some people can. They can push things down and live their whole life without it ever affecting their life. But when it starts to affect things in your life, you start to get triggered by certain things. You start to feel emotional about certain things. It's not really those things happening in the moment. We know that it's something deeper underneath that's really doing the triggering on us. When it starts to interfere with our life, or when somebody else turns the light on this, it finally ultimately needs to come to the surface. So ultimately, it's up to us to feel these things without denying them their full expression, right? If we felt that rage back then and we didn't get to feel it, maybe we were raped, maybe we were abused, maybe something happened and we tampered our reaction, we tampered our feelings. And now when they come up to the light, we feel all that rage, and it feels like maybe if somebody sees that amount of rage that we have, they will judge us, they'll criticize us, or they will, worse, abandon us, right? And we have maybe spent our whole lives feeling afraid of somebody else abandoning us because of how badly that first initial abuse hurt us. So this is why it's hard to do shadow work. This is why it's really difficult, but this is why it's necessary in healing. So when you're doing shadow work, what you're doing is you're shining a light on it. You're not trying to change it. You're trying to say, okay, I see you rage. I see you anger. I see you grief. I feel, and not only do I see you in your full, like, I'm not trying to hide parts of what happened. I'm not trying to deny or suppress any of it. I'm allowing it to come up and to see that memory, to feel those feelings, to feel what it is I feel inside without changing it, without denying it now, without suppressing it, without rejecting it, just allowing it to be what it is. If you need to cry for 3 days straight, then that's what you do. If you need to scream, like undo that, unleash that anger, then that's what you need to do. So when it comes up, it can look painful, it can look messy, it can feel like it's making things worse because we're having feelings that we never wanted to feel. But once we let those feelings take their course, we can see that the feelings themselves aren't going to hurt us. They're not going to kill us. And that this doesn't need to live in the shadow anymore. It's safe to live in the life because we're capable of feeling it, sitting with it, letting it express to the full whatever it is that we need to feel, not rejecting or denying and disowning, just completely accepting, loving with loving compassion for as long as it takes. And then you will find that the feeling and the emotion will ultimately run its course. It will peter out, right? After a big cry, you know, that relief that you feel, or after you scream, the relief that you feel. So after this is felt and we no longer deny that aspect of ourselves, then we allow it back into our being. Essentially, we integrate ourselves back together. And instead of being a broken vase on the ground, we've essentially allowed that vase to be picked up and to be glued back together. So we're integrating parts of ourselves back into being, which makes us whole, which makes us complete, because it's painful to deny parts of ourselves. And even though we're doing it for what we feel is safety, for a good reason, when we deny or suppress or reject parts of our own self, parts of our own feelings, parts of our own experiences, we are in turn rejecting ourselves. And when we do that, we fracture, we split ourselves into two. We have the subconscious where most of these things go, right? Most of our shadow aspects go. And then we have the things that we allow to still be in the light. But when we allow this back up into the light and we don't turn away from it, when we accept it fully to be what it is, then we can integrate back together and become whole. So shadow work's really important when you're healing chronic illness. So what does this have to do with world shadow work? Let's take a little breath. So as we head into 2022, there have been aspects of, you know, what people have believed on a societal level, you know, as what it means to be a good person, to chip in and help out, to take one for the team, to trust in people in white coats, to trust in authority figures, you know, to not deny, to not argue back. Like, I mean, we've grown up thinking that we're not allowed to question authority, that we're bad if we don't just do what they say, that, you know, that we need to, somehow we're bad people if we're not, you know, putting ourselves at risk in order to protect the greater good, right? All of these messagings are built into us as we're small, as we're growing up. We learn them from our parents, our teachers, society, the political system. We learn how to be good, accepted people. And none of us want to be denied, rejected, talked about. We don't want to be judged or criticized. And so we learn this at a very early age as we're socialized. What's acceptable and what's not. What makes us good, what makes us, you know, at risk of being an outcast. And we play by these rules in life. And right now, as we're heading into the new year, we're also heading into a new world. Truly, because some of these constructs that have been built up over the last couple of hundred of years are now starting to crumble. Why do I say that? Because the cracks and the fractures are now opening wide enough that we can see the light. And when enough people see truth, when they recognized that they've been lied to, that something's happening, that, you know, that the mainstream media, that the governments, that the pharmaceutical companies are really wielding monetary gain, power, and everybody's feeding everybody in a system of power and money. And we don't want to believe that because we're good people. We want to, They tell us to go out and do something, and we do it. We roll up our sleeves and we go out and do it because we're good people. We want to be good citizens. We want to protect our family and our loved ones and others. But when enough people start to see the truth of what's actually happening, that we're being told lies, that these are actually dangerous, that people are actually getting hurt, that information's being suppressed, that that a lot of our free speech and the information that's being presented is being spun in a way when enough people find out the truth, the cracks get too big. And in order, once the world essentially shines light on the darkness, which is everything that society has put in its shadow, we've put the fact that we're not really sure, we don't know if we trust this, like we don't want to listen to authority, like we want to do what's right for us, like all these different things, like questioning, all these different things. When enough light gets shined on lies, when enough light gets shined on the truth, then the old must fall. It must fall. But just like putting something in the shadow, we've all been collectively putting pieces of this in the shadow for so long. The pieces that, we're afraid to express, the pieces that we don't even know we're afraid to express. We would never even question it. We would be afraid of repercussions or rejection from the rest of society, right? But when enough people are shining a flashlight and showing you like you're being lied to, something's not right here, this isn't adding up, and enough people start shining a flashlight along, information gets brought to the light, right? And when an aspect of the shadow gets brought to the light collectively, the old must fall. And it's painful for the old to fall, because as this comes up, it's not light. Like as the truth gets shown, it's not light to just believe it. This is why so many people are having a hard time. They're resisting. A lot of people resist the truth. They resist the light for as long as they can, because just like individual shadow work, collective shadow work is like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see or deal with the fact that my government might be lying to me, that my doctors are in it for the money, that the media is hiding things from me. Like that's better left in the shadow. Like I'd like to just turn my head and have a nice Christmas, have a nice year. Like let somebody else deal with that. Like, we all do it, right? We all, contribute to the plastic problem in the world, and we know what's happening to the oceans, but we kind of like look away. We put that part of it in the shadow because it's too painful. Like it's too painful every time you have plastic in your hand to know like I am contributing to destroying the earth, to destroying the oceans. That's such a painful thing that we're like, let's just stick that down in the shadow. Like let's just, yes, I'm a good person, I'm not gonna do anything or litter outside, but like I gotta have my convenience. So we put things in the shadow so that we can still not pretend, but we can still believe that we're really good people and we're doing as best we can. Because if we acknowledge this, then our life becomes uncomfortable, right? And we have to make changes. And sometimes it's not easy or fun to do that, right? If you acknowledged like the oceans are on the verge of the biggest problem that we've ever seen in the world, and every time I open this plastic water bottle or open these things, I am contributing to my grandchildren potentially never ever even being here, because it's that bad. If we acknowledge that, it's too painful for us to live our life because plastic's everywhere. And so acknowledging something that comes to the light is often so painful. We deny it and suppress it and reject it for as long as we can. Just hide it, just turn the other way. Like we just don't have the capacity for it, because everything has to change once you allow everything to be seen in its full capacity. You're like, I can't deny it anymore. I can't suppress it anymore. And your whole life has to change as a consequence. And we like consistency. We like routine. We like familiarity. We like safety. And right now, what's happening, if the big institutions, the government, the media, the pharmaceutical companies are found out to be lying and to be corrupt and everything has to change, then what? Then the world crumbles a bit and it's going to be uncomfortable. Things are uncomfortable as we see the light, as we see the truth, as we allow it to just be there and deal with what's happening. So it's painful coming up because we as a collective have not wanted to see what's right under our noses for so long. But I can tell you, the pharmaceutical companies are corrupt. The media is suppressing information. The government is going after a power play. These are facts, and once enough light gets shined to all the information, there will be no denying it. And when we see that, it's going to be painful. Shadow work is painful, but we have to allow it to be painful. We have to allow our life to get uncomfortable, to get okay with the unknown. And once we do, even if it feels like it's going to kill us and destroy our lives and our world and our safety, and we realize we're strong enough for this, we're strong enough to live in this world without a fake safety from the government, a fake safety from the media. We don't need this spoon-fed information. We can see the truth. We don't have to have it hidden from us. That will ultimately run its course, and we'll realize like, oh, we're okay. And then we become more whole. This is how we become one again. This is how humanity evolves forward. So what do we do as we're heading into 2022 and so many people are still resisting, denying, rejecting, disowning, turning away from? They don't want it to come up. They don't want to look in their shadow. It's messy in the shadow. It is so much easier if we can just believe what we're being told. What do? Our job is to be a light keeper. It's just to hold the flashlight, to hold the light on, to speak up when necessary, just with the truth, just with the facts. Present them. Just hold the light until enough people see. And when enough people see, then we all change together. Then we all must decide how we go forward as a world, how we still stay free and democratic and kind and loving, and how we build relationships and bridges back together. But it's going to be painful, and I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. This is how wars start. This is how horrible things in past. If we've never learned anything from history, we can see that once division starts, once people are segregated, once all of this back and forth, you against me starts, it's never gone anywhere good in history. I mean, we've ended up in so many different places, wars, Nazi Germany, all of this stuff. And history is always bound to repeat itself because we deny what's in the shadow. Because as a collective, we're not doing the shadow work necessary to heal the world, to make humanity whole again. But it's coming. It is coming. The time is coming that we have the opportunity right now to make humanity whole again. And never before have we been in such a situation where everybody collectively is looking at the same thing at the same time, is dealing with the same things at the same time. The issue is here. The light is here. We just hold space. We hold light. We turn the lights on whenever possible. We do it with love, kindness, and compassion, just as we would our own individual shadow work. We don't get angry at people or force them to look at the shadow. We hold the light. We remind them they're safe, they're loved, right? They're held, because it's painful coming up. So we have to do this with compassion and love when we hold the light on. We hold the light on with compassion and love. We don't force somebody. We don't yell at somebody. We don't, devolve into violence or name calling or separation or segregation or blame or shame or guilt, right? That side is trying to do it to the side that's holding the light right now. Enough people will eventually hold enough light that everything will fracture and people won't know what to do. It will be scary. It will be so scary to stand naked, vulnerable, with all the aspects in the shadow that we never wanted to come up, plain in sight for the light of day. And people will deny it for as long as they possibly can. People will turn away from it for as long as they possibly can. Look what happened in Nazi Germany. All those people were not bad people. They were good, loving Germans, just like the rest of us. They were human beings, but they did what they were told. They denied, suppressed, rejected what was actually happening. They looked away. They were complacent. This was not something that they did wrong. It grew one small step at a time until finally, ultimately, it got so bad that nobody could deny it anymore, right? The rest of the world came to fight the war and free what needed to be freed, and then everybody else had to deal with the shadow coming up and their part that they played in it. Let's not let it get this far this time. Let's not let it get this far. The whole world is involved. So make decisions that are based in truth. Spread the truth. Keep the light on. All we have to do is hold light, hold space, shine the flashlight with love, kindness, and compassion, and remind everyone that they're safe. If they allow the light in, if you allow the shadow to rise, you're going to be safe. You're going to be okay. Hold that safe space, because it's scary for very, very many people. And those people who are already watching this video have evolved a lot further along the line in spirituality and development and transformation, because you had to, because you've been dealing with shadow aspects for a lot longer. With chronic illness, you've had to deal with darkness, with physical, emotional problems. You've had to deal with these things more than somebody else who's been living, protected and safe and never had to do their own shadow work. It's really scary when the place that you start is the collective world shadow work. So be patient, be kind to these people, hold light, shine the light brightly. Do not let the light dim. Tell the truth, spread the truth, talk the truth. Don't be afraid to spread truth and light. Do it with love, compassion, and kindness, because it is scary for all as the shadow comes to the light, but it is safe. We can handle it. As a collective, we can handle it. And when we do, we make humanity whole again. So as we head into 2022, I'm wishing you a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful Happy New Year. We are going to be, for the first 5 years of my channel, we focused on diet. We focused on physical healing. The last 2 years, we have focused on emotional, spiritual, mind-body healing. As we head into 2022, we're going to be focusing on many different things. We're going to be focusing on all of it, okay? What it takes to heal physically, mentally, emotionally, mind, body. We're going to be doing a lot of brain retraining and working with the collective. This is what the world is going to be doing this year. So we're going to be doing what's reflected in the world and having that heal us as we go along, because what we don't want is for everything that's happening in the world right now to be an excuse why you can't heal your chronic illness, why you can't get over your chronic illness right now, why you can't do that diet right now, why you can't start your exercise program right now, why you can't look at your own trauma and your own shadow work right now. We don't want any excuses. So we have to look at what's happening in the world and work with it, use it to help propel us to healing your own chronic illness. This is the year you are going to heal. This is the year I hope the world is going to heal. I don't know if it will happen in 2022 or beyond, but let's push it that way. The light, we have to hold light. We have to hold truth. We have to not be afraid to look in the places we don't want to look, to stop stuffing down the feelings we don't want to feel, to stop stuffing the thoughts away that we don't want to face, the feelings away that we don't want to feel. We have to do our own shadow work. And then once we heal, we can heal the world. So we're going to be doing all of it. This year is going to encompass everything. I'm really excited. My program's coming out this year. It's a really comprehensive healing program. It looks at everything from the physical to the emotional to the spiritual, right? We're healing mind, body, soul in this program. It's really comprehensive and I'm excited for it. I'm excited for you to do it. And that's what we're going to focus on this channel. We're going to go forward. We're going to acknowledge what's going in the world. We're going to hold space, hold light. We're not going to be afraid to talk about things. We may have to change some words, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to hold that light. We're going to spread the truth. And we're going to really not let anything else be an excuse as to why we can't heal our own chronic illness. So the fact that all this is going on to the world makes it even more the right time that this is the year for you to heal your chronic illness. You cannot say, because of the coronavirus, because of everything that's going on, this isn't the time for me. I can't focus enough on myself. This is exactly the time that you need to heal yourself. This is exactly the time that you need to let go and face everything you've been denying, suppressing, rejecting, disowning. This is exactly the time that all of this, everyone's holding space. You're safe. You can do this. You will do this. We're going to start one step at a time. We're going to talk about all of it. And I'm excited. So I'm wishing you a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Please share this video out. Please stand by and be with me as we head into 2022 for a super exciting year. So go ahead and hit the bell, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.